It was supposed to be a routine hearing. 17-year-old Malik stood alone before the bench, wrists trembling but eyes steady. The courtroom buzzed, whispers, laughter, disbelief. No lawyer? The judge scoffed, leaning back in his chair. Son, this isn't a debate club. The prosecutor smirked. The bailiff chuckled, but Malik said nothing. He just opened a worn notebook filled with handwritten notes. Your Honor, he began softly, I'll represent myself. The courtroom stilled. His voice, calm but cutting, dissected every piece of evidence, camera angles, timestamps, contradictions. The same officer who accused him fumbled on the stand, caught in Malik's questions. The judge's smirk began to fade. Finally, Malik pulled out a document. Proof the officer's report had been doctored. Gasps echoed. The judge's gavel shook. Case dismissed. As Malik walked out, the judge called after him, voice trembling, Where'd you learn all that? Malik turned, eyes burning with quiet pride. From the same system that tried to break me. A year later, that same courtroom was packed again. But this time, Malik wasn't standing at the defense table. He was walking through the double doors in a sharp navy suit, a law intern badge clipped to his pocket. The crowd murmured. The judge froze, recognition flickering in his eyes. You, he whispered. Malik nodded politely. Good morning, Your Honor. I'm assisting the public defender's office today. The irony hit like thunder. The boy the judge once mocked was now part of the system he'd beaten. When the next case began, a young teen accused of shoplifting, Malik stepped forward with calm authority. He spoke truth, not from privilege, but from pain. Every word landed heavy, cutting through prejudice like a blade. The judge, humbled, ruled in the teen's favor. As the boy's mother wept with gratitude, Malik turned to leave. The judge stood and said quietly, You become what justice should be. Malik looked back, his voice firm but gentle. Justice isn't a title, sir, it's a choice. 3 years later, the courthouse buzzed with scandal. The same judge who once mocked Malik was now on trial, accused of corruption and racial bias. Cameras flashed, reporters swarmed, and in the center of it all sat Malik, now a licensed attorney, representing the commission investigating the judge. The room went silent when their eyes met. The judge tried to smile, voice shaking. I gave you a chance once, son. Malik's tone was calm, measured, but every word cut deep. No, Your Honor, you gave me a reason. He presented evidence, case after case, showing how the judge's bias destroyed lives. The courtroom gasped as Malik pulled up his own file from years ago, the same one stamped dismissed. You taught me that justice can be mocked, he said, but it can't be escaped. The judge's face fell. The gavel dropped, guilty. As Malik walked out into the flash of cameras, he paused, looking at the courthouse doors that once symbolized defeat. Funny thing about respect, he said softly, when they won't give it to you, you build it yourself. Moral. The system can break you, or you can rise and rebuild it stronger than before. 5 years later, Malik stood on the steps of that same courthouse, but this time, the plaque beside him read Judge Malik Carter. Reporters crowded around, cameras flashing, voices overlapping. Judge Carter, how does it feel to sit where you once stood as a defendant? Malik smiled softly. It feels like redemption, he said. Inside the courtroom, his first case began. A nervous teenage boy, hand shaking, stood alone without a lawyer. The whispers started, just like before, but Malik raised a hand. This court will provide him counsel, he said firmly. No one stands alone in my courtroom. The silence was powerful. Even the bailiff's eyes softened. As the trial went on, Malik guided the young man with fairness and dignity, seeing it in the reflection of who he once was. When the boy was acquitted, his mother sobbed, whispering, Thank you, Your Honor. Malik looked down from the bench, voice steady with emotion. Don't thank me. Thank justice. She finally learned to listen. As he struck the gavel, sunlight poured through the window, washing over him. 10 years later, the courthouse was filled again, but this time, it wasn't for a trial. It was for a dedication ceremony. A new legal aid center was opening, free for kids who couldn't afford lawyers. The sign above the door read, The Malik Carter Justice Initiative. Inside, reporters gathered as Judge Carter, now gray at the temples but still sharp-eyed, stood before a crowd of young law students. "When I was your age," he began, "I stood in the same building alone, afraid and underestimated. But I learned that knowledge is power, and justice belongs to those who never stop fighting for it." In the front row sat a familiar face, the teen he once offended as a judge, now grown, wearing a law school pin. He stood up and said, voice trembling, "Judge Carter, I'm passing the bar next week. I just wanted to say you're the reason I believed I could." The room erupted in applause. Malik's eyes glistened as he replied, "Then my job's done." As the crowd cheered, the camera panned to the old judge's portrait hanging in the hall. Faded, forgotten. Malik turned to it, whispered under his breath, "You try to break me, but you built something greater." Hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that matter. And let's keep the conversation going.